Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Her Version. For those of you that are already jumping on live, thank you so much for being here. If you could do us a huge favor, if you could share this video wherever you're watching us at, so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome valuable content that we share during these podcasts, that would be great. We have had over 400 women grace the Her Version platform up to this date, and we are so excited as we get closer to 1,000. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Heather Wyatt. Heather has a vision to empower people to take control of their lives and health so they can love how they look and feel by getting back to the basics. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here talking with you.
Yes, thank you for taking some time out of your day. You know, the podcast isn't a podcast without its guests. So we appreciate the ladies who understand the importance of sharing value, sharing inspiration from their past stories and journeys in order to help those that are in a dark spot right now. You know, we all have different areas of our life that we're struggling in. We have our health, we have our mental, physical, emotional, we have our relationships, we have our career, our money, our education. And then we have happiness. You know, some people are living in a constant state of depression and anxiety. So, you know, some of us are killing it in some areas and then not so much killing it in other areas. So we love to bring on a variety of women who can touch on the areas that they want to share so that they can help others view their life a little bit differently. So thank you for being here. Where are you from, by the way?
I am in New Jersey.
New Jersey. We live in a sidestep to New Jersey. We live in Boca Raton, Florida, which is like mini Jersey.
But with more sunshine.
More sunshine.
That's the huge piece that I personally am missing right now in Jersey. I'm like craving that sunshine. And I'm sure you've got tons of it there.
Yes, every day. It's absolutely beautiful here for sure. Well, listen, I would love to dive in. You know, I love to share stories. This podcast is all about storytelling. And I would love for you to share any story that you want regarding a pivot, regarding a challenge that you have gone through in your life. And when you did finally see the light and educate yourself, or whatever you did to kind of pivot yourself out of it, you know, what did you learn from that?
So a big part of what I do is related to my story. So you kind of mentioned that our health comes in many forms, and there are different sides of it, or physical or mental. And that's why I got into being a holistic health and wellness coach. And I do work with men and women that want to lose weight. But as many of us know, it's not just the foods that you put in your mouth or the workouts. There's a lot of other stuff that impacts how healthy you are and your well-being. And mental health does have a lot to do with it. And sometimes it may not be as severe as full-on depression, but I live with depression and anxiety for sure. And I choose not to take a medication for it. Most of the time it is under control. And I've learned to use my anxiety as a superpower, as a way to get a lot of things done, but find out what works for me. The depression part, I notice whenever I start to not feel my best, I check those basics. Am I drinking water? Am I sleeping well? Am I moving my body? What kinds of food am I eating? And whenever I check in with those, it's almost guaranteed I am not on top of those things. And in the past, I will say after I had children and when I was married, I went through a really hard time where I was severely depressed. And, some doctors would say it was postpartum. I think maybe it was, but it was also due to my living conditions. I wasn't in a happy marriage. It became very toxic. But in that period of time, when I was feeling super depressed at a time where you're supposed to be happy with small children and babies, it was very difficult and challenging. And I was put on antidepressants. And then it was a different antidepressant and upping the dosage. And then that would make me super tired. So I was put on some crazy uppers. And then I couldn't sleep. So then I got sleeping medication on top. Then I had too much anxiety. And I was on this concoction of medication that made me feel like garbage. You can just imagine like all the things I was dealing with and all the side effects that each one of those pills brings on. And I love to share this whenever I talk to people about this, because we got to the point that one of the psychiatrists told me I needed electroshock therapy to like erase my brain, to make everything go away. And that was the answer. And that is in like 2005 or 6, maybe, at a time you wouldn't think that would even be in people's vocabularies anymore. But I found that fascinating. And that's why I am into a holistic lifestyle now. And I want to empower other people to, number one, take care of their health, just doing the basic things, but also to live these full lives, because nobody has to live like that. It shouldn't be your normal state of being.
Yeah, definitely. Can you tell us more about you turning your anxiety into a superpower? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I don't know if you deal with anxiety or at all. Do you?
Yeah.
So awesome. So I have heard from people that they just don't have anxiety. And I find that fascinating. Like, what is that like? What do you do all day? You just walk around like, I don't know. What do you do all day? I feel like it might almost be boring at this point, because for me, it's this constant like thing that's going on. And what I've learned about myself is I tend to do things to prevent anxiety from getting worse. But that does help me with things like keeping things clean, because if it's messy, it triggers anxiety even more. I have learned how to make to-do lists in a way that works for my brain, that feels efficient when I check them off. So whenever something is in my head, I have to write it down onto paper to get it out of my head, because if I don't, there's this nagging feeling of general anxiety there. But if I put it on paper, okay, great. I have a place to go to. That's my home base where all my thoughts are, so I don't have to worry about them. If I need to find out what they are there. And I can tackle them then one at a time, instead of just getting overwhelmed with this insanity that's going on inside.
Very, very interesting. When you say to-do lists that work for you, what does that mean?
I think
Is it a
everybody.
different kind of to-do list? I love lists. What kind of lists are you doing?
I do. I love lists too. And, I'm a pen to paper type of person. I know a lot of people like to work electronically now, but my first go-to is that pen to paper. And then I got introduced to a system. I use ClickUp, where that layout works very well for me, because you can have categories and then subcategories. And for me, it aligns with how my brain works and how messy it gets. And then I can organize it a little bit. So it goes onto paper first, then into the computer. That's just general projects and stuff going on. But my regular list, once it's all down on paper, I then categorize it to what has to get done today. What are my top things that must be done? everything else can wait. And it becomes my checkpoint when I start bouncing around from thought to thought of things I have to do. Go back to home base, that list. And is this one of my priorities? No, you have to get those done first. And then again, just one by one.
Somebody's asking what you use. ClickUps, you said?
ClickUp, yes.
Just like clickup.com?
Yep.
Very nice. Use that predominantly for business, right?
I do, but it also becomes a place for my random thoughts. And you can categorize those too. It's like I literally have a section for random ideas or something if it doesn't go into any other category, because I will have social media. That's where some of my random thoughts are. Ideas for workshops. So yes, it is a lot of business, but I can also put in client programs. And I have these parties I do. So everything is categorized onto the main thing, but then I have like the random area, just so there's a place for me to go back to find those random thoughts that I don't want to lose, but might be hidden gems. And that's the icon I have next to it, the little diamond, because they are little gems of randomness that I don't know what to do with yet, but they're out of my mind in case I want to look at them or have a purpose for them.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I create what's called master lists. And that's just like all the shit, just all of it vomited down on one piece of paper. And then from there, I kind of like move it to all the areas that it's supposed to be in. And I have one area called brilliant ideas in my notes section that it's just a list of just all the brilliance, what I perceive as brilliance that comes out of my head. I want to talk for a little bit about self-care and how you think that directly impacts our life.
Oh, it impacts everything. I 1000% believe that. It impacts your personal life, your business, your health, your happiness. It impacts everything. I mean, and that's why I literally take it back to basics. Even in my program, I don't have a revolutionary formula for people to lose weight or get healthy. I'm literally just going back to what we all know, but don't do. And it's not the sexy thing. Nobody wants to hear, oh, you have to do the work. You have to take the time daily to do self-care. And I think self-care does come in the form of sleep and the food choices that you make to put into your body and making that time to get some kind of movement in, because they all relate to how you're going to feel. I mean, if you tell me you are doing all of those things and you still feel like crap, I mean, I challenge that a little bit. If you're not doing that basic self-care and you start to do it, you will feel better. I can guarantee that.
Yeah. How did you get into health and wellness, by the way?
So I would say it stems from that time in my life. I started realizing that if I take care of myself in that way, my mental health will be better. But throughout my life, I've always been interested in being healthy, and I had children young, so my body changed very early. So I did get into dieting. I've done all the crazy diets in the world. All of them. I don't need to name them all, but I've done them all and it wasn't healthy. And I'm the type of person, I can get addicted to literally anything, bad things and good things, and overdo it. And there's been times I've gotten to the point where I wouldn't go out to eat at a restaurant. I wouldn't go for a drink with friends. I'm not drinking. Well, just come eat. I'm not eating any of that food. Do you know what they put in it? I don't. So I can't. If I can't track it, I can't eat it. And that's not a good place to be. And specifically, I remember one time I was bartending then, and my customers were like, wow, you look fantastic. I didn't feel fantastic. And I said, honestly, I don't know why I do all of this. It's not healthy at this point. They're like, well, who cares? You look great. I'm not doing it for people to tell me I look great. I was not happy, but I was addicted to overdoing everything. I was miserable. I didn't leave my house. I didn't do anything except exercise and obsess over the food I was eating. So to me, that's also not healthy, overdoing it.
Yeah. Was this Where'd that stem from? Was there a reason why you were concentrating? Was it just to lose weight, or was it a body image thing, or what?
It's probably all of it. I think having kids young, like I had my first daughter at 20. So that immediately like changes your body. And I think the way you look at yourself, having a baby changes your body. But gaining weight, taking it off, I wish I could say exactly what it was. I mean, I've always been interested in food and wellness and how I looked. So I wish I had the answer for what makes that part of your brain have that addicted personality where you overdo anything. But bringing it back to how I started getting into the business of it, I was a bartender and server for a long time. I did whatever made me the most amount of money. And it was during COVID where, I mean, I'm 39 now, so that was a couple of years ago. So I was doing that for a very long time. And that's not a business you should be in for a long time, or even in your late 30s. During COVID, I went back and it was not what it was. I can always justify that I was still in this business because I made good money. And all the people that had like what I considered good grown-up jobs, some of them didn't make a lot of money, and I was a grown-up. I needed to make money. I couldn't take some entry-level position somewhere and just start over. That wasn't going to work for me. But after COVID, it changed everything. It became, I was a furniture mover. I was a takeout person because you couldn't eat inside here. I'm sure it was different there. And I was a sanitation person. I was like, I can't do this stuff. I have to make a change. And someone recommended to me that I would make a really good life coach because of all the things I've been through in my life and how I handled it. I don't like the term life coach. I just don't like the connotation it has. There are some very good ones out there. Mm-hmm. But I started getting into, I saw you can be a health coach. That's the thing. Great. Mm-hmm. I can do that. I can help people with all that stuff. So I did go to school, go to a program to learn the coaching, how to start the business. And that's how it started.
Fantastic. Were you involved in multi-levels while you were bartending? When did that come into your life?
Multi-levels, meaning?
MLM companies?
No, I don't do any of those.
Oh.
No. Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because I don't work with any products or any MLM companies. And for me, that's very important to my brand because, like I said, it's about doing the work and getting back to basics. And I feel that when you start suggesting products to people, it's in people's nature to want the quick fix. They think, oh, I can just take this and that's going to make me healthy. I don't think that.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. How has all of this impacted your children as far as the healthy lifestyle?
It annoys them. It annoys them. They say, oh, stop being such a health coach. When I'm suggesting things like go outside and get sunshine. So yeah, I wouldn't say it really affects them. If anything, in a positive way, and it just gets on their nerves a little bit.
How old are your children?
12, 14, and 16. I need to remember, they all change in the next few months. And then I have to get used to saying the new numbers.
Yes.
No, oh my God, I'm so lying. So they're going to be 13. Oh my gosh, I'm mixing it all up. 17 and 19.
I was going to say, if you're 39 and you had them at 20.
18.
Yeah, you should have an older one.
Yeah, I was like, I can't. They all change. Their birthdays are April, May, June. So they all start to change. So I'm trying to get in the habit of saying the new ones, and I completely missed that. They're going to.
That's too funny. I have a 19-year-old son, and I had him at 20.
Okay.
He's about to be 19 in 10 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had a singlet or singleton or whatever you call them. But I also raised my son super healthy with very similar attributes that you did, as far as like not wanting to go to restaurants, super weird about food, only fed him healthy stuff. Um, which I'm actually really grateful for, because now he's like a super health fanatic. He goes to the gym every day. He eats super healthy. He looks like Captain America. Like, he took it to a whole new level, which is cool, because you want your kids to have good self-esteem and for them to be like active and for them to have like good confidence, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I joke with my kids. I tell them, you're lucky I didn't have you now, because you wouldn't have had all of the things that you had. I would have been one of these like over the top moms, not feeding them anything processed or Gerber or anything when I did then. If I'd known better, I definitely would have done things differently now. So I always say, they're lucky for that, because they would have hated it. Or
Yeah.
they wouldn't have known any better. It would have been normal to them. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that would have been different.
Yeah, definitely. My son jokes now that he was the kid, he always brought a lunch to school, and because I made it for him, and no one would ever trade food with him. He's like, you can't trade, like, the sugar, the most sugary thing in his lunch would be a box of raisins. And he's like, nobody's about to trade anything for a box of raisins. So he didn't really open up to me about that until he was way older, like high school or whatever. But yeah, he jokes now, he laughs. He's like, nobody would trade with me. He's like, I'd want Twizzlers and Twinkies and all of this. He's like, I never got to try it until he would go to his friends' houses. That's when he would.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I hear my friends say their kids are asking for the specific one is those little muffins all the time. And the moms are like, no, I'm not feeding you that junk, but that's what they want. And even when the moms make them at home, it's not the same, because they're full of chemicals and all the preservatives, and they're made to make you want them and taste good. And once you're different, because your friends have all the packaged muffins and you don't, you do become the strange kid, even if it's better for you, just because you're the only one that can't have it.
Yeah, and yeah, still, even to this day, 19 years later, I don't buy any of that stuff. There's never any snacks or sweets in the house at all. If anyone wants to buy them, you can spend your own money on it. That's what I always say. Because I don't want to be the one to poison anybody. Like, if you want to poison your body with whatever you want to do, you spend your money and do that. Like, I'm not gonna elicit that sort of behavior. So it's great. We all, stay between the lines pretty much. We have dessert and stuff, but that's like, we go out or whatever it is. But as far as it being in the house, we have a pretty strict, it's not even that strict. I just don't buy it,
Yeah, and that's great. And I think it's awesome your son at 19 has these habits ingrained in him, because it's difficult to undo if you've been taught your whole life that, if you haven't been taught the healthy way your whole life, it's hard to undo. I see that with my clients a lot. It's like you go back to those habits that and they become a source of comfort.
Yeah, definitely. So what are the steps that you have taken over the years to implement healthy habits in your own life?
Well, I will say it's definitely not linear. And I wish I could say that I'm 100% healthy all the time, but I'm not. Life happens, things get in the way. Most recently, I went through a whole period of time where I was just completely off. And I even mentioned to my therapist, I started talking to a psychiatrist again. And it wasn't until I went to my medical doctor that she said, oh, I'm going to test your thyroid. And my thyroid was completely off. So during that time, that became a whole new discovering my body again, because I had no idea what was going on. I'd gotten into those bad habits again. And now I found out what works for me. And I think that's really important for everyone to do. Like now I'm 90% gluten and dairy free because that works for my body. I don't recommend that for everyone. You can try it, see how you feel. But I know there are some people like, no, I love my bread, I'm not giving it up. Well, you don't have to if you don't need to. For me, it helps keep that thyroid issue under control. But what helps me every time that I kind of fall off track is making it a priority, putting that on the list, on my calendar. My workouts go in my calendar. I have to schedule myself lunch times. So I have that time. So I'm not running around. I have to meal prep. So I have that food ready.
Beautiful. I love it. Is that some of the stuff that you teach your clients?
Yes, absolutely.
Any that are not, what if they don't want to or can't or don't get it, too hard?
Well, that's the thing. Once you come to work with me, you have to be willing to. I mean, why would you come work with me if you don't want to make the change? You can do that on your own. You have to, and it's something when I'm having those first conversations with my client, how bad do you want this? Are you going to do it? Because if you're not going to do it, don't waste our times. And I have a thing now, I won't take on new clients in July and August because I don't think it's fair. I don't think anybody's going to implement new changes at that time. It's the middle of summer. People have all these things planned. And the first year I had clients, I started seeing people were canceling. There was this going on, there was that going on. And once you lose that momentum, you kind of fall off track a little bit. So I think it's a good rule for me now. No new clients in July and August. We start back up in September. Like we go through cycles when we get in our wanting to get healthy and recommit to our health journeys. So if I do come across the issue where clients do get unmotivated or they have a hard time starting or sticking with it. And so in that case, we start off super, super small and in a way that is manageable.
Makes sense. What are some of the biggest excuses that you hear as far as people not being able to manage their health?
The number one I would say is it's too expensive. There's not a lot of enough time. And right now, everything is more expensive. And I'm not happy about it, but I'm a little bit happy that even the cheap junk food isn't as cheap as it has been in the past. So it is a little more, so the difference isn't quite there as much. It's not like, oh, the 99-cent package of junk or like the $2 fruit. Like you can get the fruit now. It's fine. That's a lame example, but that's always the excuse. Healthy food is too expensive. Well, not if you're eating whole, natural food. If you're going and getting frozen stuff, sure, it's going to be more expensive. The more whole foods you eat, less out of a package, I do think it is more reasonable. Especially if you buy in bulk, you can. So I hate to hear the excuse that it's too expensive. And the other one is not enough time. I mean, you have to make the time. You have time for what you prioritize. That's a simple fact. And you have to prioritize it. And I'm a firm believer if you don't make time for your health, you have to make time for sickness, as cliche as that sounds, but it's true. And I've seen it with myself in the past. I go, and then crash. And that's a thing I have to be careful because I can still get in the habit of doing. So I have to stay on top of all of that.
Yeah. What are some healthy habits that you encourage your clients to take on?
Definitely moving their bodies in whatever way they enjoy. I mean, that's important. Getting rid of the processed food. That's a huge one. I'm not one of those people. I don't recommend, even though I'm working with clients on weight loss, tracking food or counting calories. In the beginning, maybe it's a good tool to bring some awareness to what you actually are eating if you're not aware. But I don't feel like it's something sustainable for a lot of people or that people want to do. And so I find the easiest way is eating the more whole foods. So I definitely encourage that clients to get in the habit of meal prepping, having healthy snacks available, because if it's easy, if you have something healthy pre-made ready to go, that's going to stop you from making the excuse, oh, I have nothing to eat, and like ordering takeout or stopping for fast food, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I agree. What are some limiting beliefs that you have had to personally break through in order to really grab a hold of your own health?
So I would say my biggest challenge is the belief that I constantly have to be going. And this was even back when I was bartending. Like, I have to work hard or I will not be successful. I don't have time to slow down. Those are big ones. The big thing I'm always working on is slowing down and making more time, because it's not healthy. And that's how I got in the habit of go, 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 crash, because I wouldn't take the time to slow down. So getting rid of that, I always need to go and be working hard or else I'm not working hard enough kind of mentality.
Yeah, definitely. What would be some advice that you would give to females who are struggling with their weight loss right now?
So I would say the most important thing is to have consistency. You just have to be consistent. I feel like women in general, we get very discouraged when we eat one salad and haven't lost 10 pounds, or go to the gym for a week and aren't, 20 pounds lighter. So have patience and consistency.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've done that before where I'll go like 2 weeks in a row and
Yeah.
you don't see a whole lot of movement on the scale. And you're like, what the hell? I totally get that. So listen, I would love to ask, we have quite a few people listening live right now, hanging out. For those of you that are watching on the replay, if you could hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love. But I want to ask, as far as your business goes, for those that are listening live who are interested in knowing more or learning more, who do you help? Who should be reaching out to you? Who's your best client?
So I work with both men and women, both. Um, they are typically people that have lost weight before or know how to lose the weight, but there's something else keeping them stuck. I feel like in this day and age, we have a lot of information. We have access to a lot of information. We know what to do to be healthy, but there's something else holding you back. And that something else is different for everyone. And I really help clients find that and get unstuck so they can start making progress.
Beautiful. And where can people find you on social media? Where do you hang out at?
I am on LinkedIn and I am on Instagram at _Heather Wyatt.
Beautiful. And why do you do what you do?
So I do this because I feel like everyone should be happy in their lives. Everyone should be living a life that they're thriving in. Going back to, people shouldn't be living in the darkness. If you are in that place, you don't have to stay there. Regardless of what the situation is, there is a way to live a life that you are happy to be living.
Beautiful. And what are your big dreams for your business?
For my business, I have super big dreams right now, and they are involving moving to Costa Rica and taking the business over there in some form. It might look like catering to solo travelers in a different form and seeing what kind of doors open in the wellness space over there. But right now, that's the big dream. Costa Rica travels.
I love it. And helping people with their health and wellness?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know, I'm sure you've traveled before, For me, the first time I ever solo traveled, it was like such an eye-opening experience just to be able to see other cultures and how other people live. And just personally, it's like it's a really bold thing to go somewhere by yourself and travel and explore something new. It's a lot different than going with a partner or girlfriend and you're just doing stuff. But when you're taking this adventure by yourself, it's just like opens up a whole other door of possibilities. And you talk to more people. A lot of people can't go out to eat by themselves. And I think that's really sad. Some people might look at that solo diner and say, oh, how sad. They have no one to eat with. But the experience of solo travel, you just start up so many conversations with people you otherwise wouldn't talk to if you were sitting there talking to a partner or a friend.
Yeah.
And I've met so many interesting people on my solo travels, and it's done so much for me. So if I could help other people do that and facilitate that experience, that would just be like incredible to me.
Absolutely. I love going to restaurants and the movies by myself. It's one of my favorite things to do. I almost feel kind of like a badass when I do it too.
I love it.
I fully embrace the whole process of people kind of wondering what's going on too. I love it.
Yeah, I don't even think about that part. To me, I can't understand how people can't do it because it's such a normal thing to me. So I don't even know what goes on in those people's heads because I can't comprehend that people think it's strange.
Yeah, people think it's strange. And there's a lot of people that cannot do it, would never do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us, for sharing some of your goodness with us. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
So closing thoughts. I would just motivate anyone who would want to motivate anyone who is in that kind of dark space to find someone that you resonate with, that you can connect to help get you out. You know, my space, I do it through health and wellness and food and helping people feel good in their bodies, but other people do different things. So just find someone to lean on and use as a source of support.
Absolutely. Well, if you resonated with Heather and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure you reach out to her on her social media. Her website is right above her head area and also in the description below, wherever you're watching us at. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Her Aversion. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, be sure to reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.